We're back for episode 6 of Pro Audio Deal or Disaster, where we look at Facebook Marketplace listings and talk about the gear, talk about the asking prices, and share stories.
Welcome to Storytellers.
About our experiences with this stuff in the past. I love hearing what you have to say about it all, so definitely leave your thoughts in the comments below. You can support these videos by joining the channel either here on YouTube or on Patreon, or by just using the affiliate links in the description below. So let's start right out of the gates with an interesting one that'll hopefully bring some discussion up, because I want to hear your thoughts on this. Not so much the sound system or these specific speakers, but whether or not you think in 2024 you could get away with bringing carpet-covered speakers to an event. Now, these look a little bit threadbare. They've definitely lived a long life. Let me read through the listing here. So he's got 8 of the, let me get back to that photo of everything. All right, so he's got 8 of the MTL2 subs, and those are loaded with the 18-inch EV180B drivers. Looks like he's got caster plates for all of those, and again, those are carpet covered, mostly in good condition. We got some nicks in the grill cloth, and carpet's pretty threadbare. Like I said before, it's definitely been used and worn through and cleaned, and these look like they've been repainted a few times. These speak-on plates back here, old style speak-on connectors as well. Yeah, those are the subs. Oh, some of them are reconed. So this is reconed back in 04. So it's reconed 20 years ago. Wow, that's interesting. And then we've got some racks as well. So let's get back to the speakers. On the tops, there's 8 2212s, and they're not all matching, unfortunately. One pair of them has a DH1A driver with an HP 94 lens, so a 94 degree lens. That's this guy here, it looks like. I can see the HP 94. And then the other 6 have the HP 64 lens with the B and C drivers. So those are 64 degree lenses. So not all matching, but that's not the end of the world. A little bit of variety to get you through the different types of jobs never hurt. And then on the amp racks, we've got 2 R&R amp racks. Those are never cheap, so high quality amp racks. We've got 6 of the Crown 3600 Macrotech VZs, 1 1200 Macrotech, 1 Crown XTI 4000, 1 XTI 4002, and then a whole bunch of cables. So 8 75-foot speak-on cables, 8 conductor with NL4 connectors, and 2 panel mounts. He's just calling them panel mounts, but they're input-output panels for the racks. Then 2 Motion Lab 30 amp distros, which I think were in the previous. Yep, so we got 2 Motion Labs. I normally wouldn't put those in the middle of the rack, but whatever. You definitely want to get the Macrotech weight down low. Those are some heavy-duty old amplifiers. What else do we have? 2 fan panel mounts. So yeah, just 2 hinged fan panels. 1 DBX 480, which does not seem to be in evidence. Not shown. Okay, and then 2 of the PA Plus drive racks, which are these 2 silver fellows here. Says it's a turnkey, good working system. Took the rig out on 6/21 of this year, and it sounds really good. You'll have to get a couple more amps for the mids and highs for the other 4 top speakers. The rig, as you see it, is running 4 tops and 4 subs. So yeah, whether or not you think it's a fair price, he's at $26,000 on all of this, and honestly, the comparables are tough on these. Like there's some subs, like this pack here of 2 subs and a top sold or ended. I don't know if it's sold. I don't think it's sold. But somebody listed this pack here for 10 grand. But there's not a lot of comparables on this kind of stuff nowadays that I could like price this out. And, I'm not going to go on eBay and find anybody selling a system like this. It's really down to whether or not you think the value's in this speaker system, right? Because you're not going to buy $25,000 worth of stuff for a handful of Macrotech amps. 6 3600s, I will look those up real quick, actually. Let's have a look. Okay, so Macrotech 3600 allegedly listed on eBay. Let's see if any of them have sold recently there, because people are definitely getting money for them, but it's a matter of, are they actually moving at that price? Offer accepted for 500, offer accepted at 700, one maybe sold 550. So yeah, maybe like 400 to 500 for a 3600. You could reliably expect that. Some of these have gone a little higher because they've got different cards in them. But yeah, so let's say 500 a pop times 6. That's $3,000. We're at $3,000 worth of Macrotech amps. Yeah, you got a long way to go to get to 26,000. But anyway, my question about this to you is, could you get away with bringing a system like this? Assuming you know that the system could handle the gig, could you use carpet-covered speakers in 2024? A system that looks like this? Would it be worth it to you, or would you have to strip them all down and do truck bed liner or something like that to make them acceptable? You know, at some point at the end of the 90s, early 2000s, I remember like the bigger companies were always doing, other stuff and painted boxes and stuff like that. But the consumer grade stuff and the stuff you could buy in stores like I was working in, all of a sudden carpet covered started to go away like pretty quickly overnight. They went away, and then shortly after that, we started seeing plastic, like molded powered speakers become popular for the first time. So very interested to hear your thoughts on this, and if you've owned any of this stuff, chime in. I mean, we've all used Macrotech amps and drive racks and all that stuff, so nothing in the amps is really that outstanding. It's more of this whole system is interesting, and the speakers especially. Let me know your thoughts. Up next, this is just a quick one. This is a listing for possibly 4, but also possibly 1 Ashley EQ. I'm not sure if the 350 is for all 4 of these, but he's got 2 of the single 31 band and 2 double 31 band Ashley long fader EQs. These were nice EQs in their day, probably still are if they're maintained. These look like they've been through some stuff. They're in a really dogged up carpet covered rack, missing some buttons here on the range selection, and this first dual one is really yellowed, which is unusual. Looks like maybe this one came out of a bar or a club or something where there was smoking back in the day. So these have been around the block, and $350 a pop or $350 for all 4. Kind of, $350 for all 4 even. Ugh. I don't know. That's a lot still. That's a lot. There's you can see there's some rust on the rack rails, so these have been exposed to humidity or moisture or both, probably stored in a storage space or a garage if I had to guess just by looking at these. So they will be filled with dust and spiders' nests and will require quite a bit of cleaning to be able to use all 31 of the bands without crunching and crackling sounds. But when you look at these rack rails and they're just straight up rust to the point where there's like dust from the rust collecting at the bottom of the rack, these were stored in a non-climate controlled setting. And this one here was probably in a smoking club. So buyer beware, I would say. I wouldn't buy these, but if you think they're worth it, let me know in the comments. And we can kind of stay in the same time period, that 90s transition to the 2000s. Now, this is all going to be 90s stuff by the looks of it, but you can see this JBL box here is not carpet covered. So this was a slightly more professional model for the day, and these also look like they've probably been stored in a garage or storage space just from the dust and the cobwebs I'm seeing, but maybe just an unfinished basement or something. So we've got a couple of JBL cabinets that are not carpet covered, and then we've got JBL cabinets that are carpet covered. Then we've got some PV carpet covered cabinets. Now these look like they've been sat in either in some water or, maybe they got wet with beer or something at an outdoor show or, club show back in the day. But you can see the dust cover on the voice coil is punched in even though the grill cloth is intact. So these have definitely been through some stuff, not the least of which is probably the water damage and whatever this maybe mold on the grill cloth is. These are looking rough. This is a rough looking system. Yeah, this is definitely not looking great from a water damage standpoint. Kind of looks like a garage or storage unit floor. So $2,000. Ooh. Yeah, so there's the giveaway. There's your lawnmower. So these are just sitting out in the garage, getting hot, getting cold, collecting dust, Dust is one of the worst things on equipment like this because as it sits there, the dust will retain moisture. And that's one of the easiest ways to end up with rust inside of your gear. Even if, it's never been wet or it's never been in the rain or anything like that, you can end up with an absolute ton of rust just from leaving dusty gear in a space where there is humidity, like a garage. So, and the mixer. Yeah, that's not going to be super serviceable. It looks like it was put away dirty, and again, just corrosion. If you're shopping for anything like this is the kind of stuff you want to pay attention to. What kind of condition it was put away in. If it was put in storage, was it put away clean or covered in dust and dirt? Because that never helps as time goes by. And yeah, that's hilariously ambitious. He's going to get $700 on those amps. Used excellent condition, that one was listed in. Doesn't say it's sold. That's just what it was listed for, which was probably ambitious to begin with. And his are far from excellent condition, if they operate properly at all. So yeah, so let me know what you think of this listing overall. For $2,000, I was kind of showing it as an example of what not to do if you're storing equipment like this. You'd be better to give this stuff away or donate it to a school or a music program or a music school when it's still usable, because storing this stuff for 10, 20 years in a garage where there's humidity and everything, it's for the most part probably all worthless at this point, in my opinion. Certainly for anything where you're concerned about the aesthetics, it all looks terrible. So unfortunate. Definitely not $2,000 worth of stuff. This is another classic Facebook listing where the person selling all this stuff seems to have a good pile of stuff, but they don't really seem to know what they're doing with it yet. The listing is audio gear / video gear for sale, $1 in stock. And I'll read you the description as we go through the pictures. So a lot of audio gear, video gear for sale, TVs, cases, Rode cases, stage lighting, rack cases, pro lights, LCD business TVs, lots of gear for sale. Looking for a buyer that wants to invest into the entire unit. Possible auction, maybe going. Not sure what he's saying there. Lots of high-priced gear for sale, working and some not working depending on the minor issues they have. So is this stuff all for parts? Does he know what's working or not? Like, it's just kind of a mystery grab bag, right? Professional speakers, projectors, major amounts of gear. Make an offer. Serious business buyers only. We will not entertain low-priced offers. Some gear alone is worth $10K and above used. So know what you're buying is an investment. We just want to sell it all and move to our new unit. So it's an investment, but they don't want to have anything to do with it anymore. Like, I just love these. Like, these guys have just racks and racks of stuff going here. They got Christie projectors coming out of their shelves here. They got all sorts of stuff going on. Tons of ultimate tripod speaker stands. Those are great. And just generally, so they got some audio mixers up here sitting on top of a big lateral file cabinet. They got more printers than you could ever want at a registration desk for a corporate event. Tons of monitors. Like, yeah, they got also cases. Wonder who On Services is. Anybody know On Services out of Georgia? Wonder if this was all bought from like a hotel supplier or something. 400 amp video PD in that case back there. Interesting. This looks like a Whirlwind box here down in the front. Some nice tripods. Those are quite expensive. And yeah, projectors are never cheap. None of this stuff's cheap. So yeah, they're right on. But like, name a price, like you can't be, listing all this stuff, racks of stuff, and you don't even have like a full list of what it all is really. Just these like pictures, and then, make an offer. Of course some of it was worth $10,000, but if that's if it works, like if all this stuff was in a flood or something, is there a reason why you're being so vague on this like vast amount of equipment as to like what the value might be? This stuff drives me crazy. These people put these listings up and they expect the people viewing them to be the buyer and the seller. I'm supposed to make you an offer, but like based on what? You're alleging here that each piece of this could be worth $10,000. So are you completely delusional, or are you like a reasonable, like you're actually trying to get rid of this stuff? So, it's frustrating. These sellers could just be a little more, obvious with what their intent is when they write 2 paragraphs and it really doesn't say anything other than, trying to coerce somebody into giving them some, large offer. At least, tell us what you got into it. If you're desperate to get rid, I got 50 grand into it. All right, I at least kind of know what world you're in. If you got 10 grand, if you got 50 grand, 100 grand, I don't know. Did you find all this stuff for free? Was it part of a deal and it's costing you money to store it? I have no idea what your motivation is looking at this listing. And so it's pretty much impossible to make an offer. All this stuff could be complete garbage and we could be talking scrap value. Who knows? Half of this stuff, you get stuff marked up that it's broken, stuff taped over. Who knows how long it's been sat on the floor in the storage unit. Amazing. Facebook never fails. This last one I just had to include because it's kind of funny that in the 4 pictures they took for the listing, they could not get the entire mixing board into any of those pictures. This thing's huge, and for anybody too young to remember dealing with large format analog consoles, this is what 56 channels looked like before digital consoles. And this is a relatively small 56 channel console, if you believe it. Like, this isn't very complex. This is like a very, pedestrian 56 channel console. Some of the, more complex ones that had more features would be quite a bit deeper than this as well. And thicker too, if you could imagine the, top to bottom depth. So yeah, this is a Yamaha M3000A 56 channel frame. And it's a big boy. This one doesn't have a case, so you can see it's pretty dirty. It's definitely probably been in storage. This kind of has the look to me that it was maybe in a church, and then they put it in storage when they came to their senses and bought a digital board some years ago. And now they're trying to get rid of this along with this fish tank aquarium over here. I could be completely wrong, but that would be my guess coming out of Indiana with a 56 channel frame console here. And yeah, this was not super common to be carrying around for like local gigs or anything like that, but definitely did my fair share of jobs in small venues with large consoles and having to lift them and get them up over railings. And certain venues people will remember in Washington, D.C., where you have to use chain hoists to get the mixer to front of house position, or a single chain hoist, I should say. Leave it in the comments if you know what venue that is, and if you've ever had the pleasure of doing that. But yeah, Yamaha M3000, I thought it was hilarious that they couldn't get the whole thing in the photos. They need to step back like another 4 or 5 steps here with their camera. And yeah, I guess they don't have a table or a stand for it. I wonder if they even have the power supply, because this is obviously not a standard, IEC cable. It's a separate power supply situation that you need to have, I believe. I don't think this had a conventional power supply built in. I don't think this was the backup. I could be wrong on that. If you know for sure, I'm not going to look it up right now. It's like 1 a.m. But yeah, I believe this would have had an external power supply with it as well. Most of these did, and most of those power supplies were pretty complex and kind of like a computer power supply. If you're familiar with those, there's multiple different outputs giving different voltages in the case of these mixing boards. A lot of them, you would have positive and negative rails, and then a lot of times another, supply rail altogether for the phantom power circuitry. So some of those could be quite complex, and whenever you were running those, we always felt compelled to run a backup. I think most people did, so you'd end up with a little small rack that would generally also have to be carted around with this massive console and a pair of large, like Apollo era looking umbilical cords to connect the whole thing together with the primary and redundant power supplies. And it all worked great. And, a few extra people had jobs unloading all this heavy stuff, and we had a good time doing it. So, yeah.